When I was 5, a single sentence tied my fate to someone for life. Ethan will marry your daughter someday. It was just a casual joke from his grandmother, but it stuck to me like a curse. Back then, I was just a naive little girl, standing in front of this cold, quiet boy with deep eyes and tightly pressed lips. And now, I still haven't escaped that sentence, and he never let me. That day was the first time I stepped into the Carter household. The mansion was so grand, I thought I had accidentally walked into a royal palace. Crystal chandeliers cascaded like waterfalls from the ceiling. The floor was polished enough to see my reflection, and the garden was larger than the entire playground back in my neighborhood in Brooklyn. My mom held my hand tightly, like she was afraid this world might swallow me whole. As the towering black iron gates slowly opened, an elderly butler with silver hair, looking like he stepped straight out of a historical drama, bowed his head to greet us. Mom whispered in my ear, "Don't run around. Don't get anything dirty, understand?" I nodded frantically, my heart filled with curiosity. That was the first time I heard the name Ethan Carter, the heir of the Carter family. So wealthy people said they could probably snap their fingers and rebuild our whole block overnight. Then I met him, a 7-year-old boy with jet black hair, sitting on a leather armchair twice his size, clutching a book thicker than any dictionary I'd seen. He wore a tiny gray suit, his hair perfectly combed, and his face looked like he was on his way to a global economic summit. I stood a meter away from him, bowed politely, and said, "Hello, sir." No response, no nod, not even a glance. He completely ignored me like I was part of the flooring. Embarrassed, I looked toward my mom. Meanwhile, his grandmother burst out laughing. "This girl's adorable. She's got good vibes. She should come over more and play with Ethan." And that's when it happened. The sentence that sealed my fate. She said it lightly, like a breeze, but I heard every word. "Maybe they should get married someday. They look good together, don't they?" I froze. Ethan didn't say a word, but I swore I saw the corner of his lips twitch. Not a smile, not irritation, just that look that said, "Who even is this girl?" I nervously stepped forward and offered him a candy I'd found in my mom's purse. He stared at the candy for exactly 1 second, then pulled out an entire bag from his pocket and shoved it into my hands. "Not eating it, take them all." What? I stood there stunned, clutching the giant bag of candy like I just won the lottery. And him? He simply lowered his head and went back to reading, as if none of that had happened. That was the first gift I ever got from him. Not flowers, not a doll, just a bag of candy. But from that moment on, I officially became the little bunny under 24/7 surveillance by the grumpiest little old man on earth. From that day on, I officially became the little bunny of the Carter mansion. Or more accurately, a living creature under the strict management of Ethan Carter. He didn't talk much, he didn't smile either, but somehow he always appeared exactly when I needed something, and quietly took over everything. One morning, I was still sprawled out in bed when I heard a knock. Knock, knock. Before Mom could even respond, his voice came through the door, cold like a winter draft from upstate New York. "Don't wear that flower dress." I rubbed my eyes, looking down at the faded dress I'd snuggled up with. "Why not?" He held out a brand new school uniform, the tag still attached. "Doesn't match. Not royal wedding material." I was 5. Who's dreaming about weddings already? I laughed awkwardly, but still got forced into that outfit anyway. And from then on, going to school felt like attending a formal press conference. Hair perfectly combed, dresses perfectly pressed, shoes so polished they practically reflected clouds. Ethan sat next to me in the car, buckled my seatbelt, and wore a face so serious you'd think he was my personal bodyguard. What about school? Well, kids called me Sticky Violet because I clung to Ethan like industrial glue. "Ethan, want to play hopscotch?" "Ethan, look at me jump." "Ethan, let's color together." Every time, I'd chirp away like a bird, and he'd sigh like he was headed to a United Nations summit. But strangely, he never said no. He even handed me the prettiest crayons, or moved over silently so I could sit next to him. but heaven forbid someone else step in. One recess, the class president gave me a strawberry candy. I grinned and accepted it, but just as I was about to unwrap it, smack, the candy flew from my hand and hit the ground. Ethan stood nearby, his eyes cold as ice. He stepped on the candy lightly, like it had just committed a felony. I gaped. "Why did you do that?" He huffed. "Don't eat what others give you. If you do, you'll owe them." Ethan, seriously? We're 5.5. Are you already worried about emotional debts? I looked at the squashed candy, eyes brimming with tears. 3 minutes later, a brand new bag of strawberry candies was placed in front of me. Ethan's voice was flat. "If you want candy, eat mine." I didn't dare argue. I didn't even understand why my heart suddenly felt so warm. One time, I asked, "Ethan, when I grow up, who am I going to marry?" He flipped a page of his book and replied, "You don't need to marry anyone. Just stay home." I pouted. "Stay home with who?" He glanced at me, his expression calm. "With me." He said it like it was obvious. And for some reason, my little heart started thumping like someone was playing jump rope inside my chest. From that moment on, my right to choose who to marry was basically revoked. From tiny things like strawberry candy, to crayons, to seats, to even my friends, and my right to be mad. Ethan quietly claimed them all. He was cold, slow to speak, and always grumpy. But if I sat sadly under a tree, I'd always feel the familiar gray sweater beside me. He wouldn't talk. He wouldn't try to cheer me up. He'd just sit there quietly. And somehow, that was enough to make me feel safe. And then, I started to like that weirdly possessive behavior. Because in the chaotic, noisy world of preschool, he was the only one who didn't need to say a word to make it clear. I belonged to him. My childhood played out like a long-running sitcom, with just two main characters, a chatty little girl named Violet, and a cold-faced old man trapped in a 6-year-old's body named Ethan Carter. I couldn't really tell what he was. Best friend, big brother stand-in, personal bodyguard, or self-declared future husband. Every day started with me asking, "Ethan, what are we eating today?" and ended with, "Can I wear that dress tomorrow?" You see, I never had a chance to develop any sense of fashion or freedom of food choice, because Ethan took over everything before I even knew those rights existed. I loved fried chicken. He made me eat vegetables. I adored frilly pink dresses. He replaced them with neutral-toned uniforms. I liked coloring with the girls in class. But less than 5 minutes in, I'd feel a tug on my sleeve. "Sit here." But I said sit here. No explanation, no resistance allowed. Cold, certain, like he was issuing a territorial declaration. At first, I was confused and ran to complain to my mom. She just smiled and said, "Maybe he's just really fond of you." Fond? If that's what fond looks like, then why did he shut down every single time someone gave me something? "No gifts from others. You already belong to me," he'd say. Once, our school held a summer art contest, and the grand prize was a giant box of candy. Of course, I signed up right away, excitedly bringing my pencils to sketch a garden scene. I had barely settled in when a boy named Jake came over, offering me a fancy set of crayons. "Here, Violet, use these. They'll make your picture look amazing." I was about to thank him when, bam! A shadow fell over my sketch. Ethan was standing there, looking like he was about to interrogate the entire school board. With one hand, he slid Jake's crayons aside. With the other, he placed an even more expensive watercolor set in front of me. "Use this," he said curtly. Jake paled and mumbled an apology before running off. I pouted. "Ethan, that was so mean. He was just being nice." Ethan looked at me without blinking. "You don't need anything from anyone else. You've got me." And once again, I couldn't argue. Under his hawk-eyed supervision, I finished the painting and ended up winning second place. I dashed up to the stage, holding the candy prize box above my head like a trophy. "Ethan, want to share?" He crossed his arms and scoffed. "No thanks." "Eat it all. That way you'll get fat and no one else will want you." Excuse me? Why did that sound suspiciously like a disguised marriage proposal? After that day, the nickname Violet's baby husband started spreading across the preschool. Girls were jealous, boys kept their distance. And me? I was just giddy like a little fool, because I had someone who didn't just give me candy. He got jealous. He wanted exclusive rights over everything about me. One time, I absent-mindedly accepted a lollipop from a teacher handing them out to the class. Just as I was about to eat the lollipop, Ethan snatched it from my hand, unwrapped it, licked it once, and handed it back. "Here, now it's mine. You can eat it." I froze. Well, he wasn't wrong. It really was his now. From my desk and my chair to every candy and juice bottle I touched, Ethan made sure a part of him was attached, as if he was afraid someone might steal me away if he didn't mark everything I had. At the time, I was too young to understand. But later on, I realized he wasn't just claiming candy, he was quietly claiming my whole childhood. Things could have stayed sweet and silly like that forever. Until that night, the one when I was 11. I was still the same clingy kid. "Ethan, look at this. Ethan, help me with that." And he was still cold-faced as always, yet every morning, there he was, standing at my front door. Uniform crisp, hands in his pockets, like a child model straight out of a high-end boys' fashion ad in Manhattan. I thought that was enough, that we'd go to middle school together, then high school, grow up side by side. But no, adults have a talent for ruining a child's entire world with a single clean-cut decision. That night, Mom gently set down a bowl of soup on the dinner table and said softly, "Violet, I got a new job. We're moving to the next city soon. Start preparing yourself, okay?" I thought I'd misheard. Moving? No way. She nodded, eyes filled with guilt. "The pay's better there. Life will be easier for both of us." My fingers clenched tightly around my soy milk straw. I was shaking. I wasn't afraid of moving. I was afraid of leaving him. That night, I snuck out to the backyard. The moon was blurry, like it might cry too. I sat on the grass, hugging my pillow, eyes fixed on the sky. Only one sentence kept looping in my head. How do I tell Ethan? I heard soft footsteps behind me. I didn't turn. I already knew. It was him. He sat down next to me in silence and held out a cold can of Coke. I took it with both hands, trembling. A few minutes later, I broke down. "Ethan, I have to go." He didn't answer right away. It was a long pause before he gently placed a hand on my head and stroked it like I was a tiny kitten. "I know," he said. I looked up. Under the moonlight, his face was as unreadable as ever. But his eyes looked panicked in a way I'd never seen before. "Are you mad at me?" I asked. He frowned. "If I was mad, would I bring you Coke?" I burst into laughter, then immediately started sobbing all over again. He didn't say anything else, just let me cry into his shoulder until his white school shirt was soaked. As I sniffled, his voice turned hoarse. "You can go anywhere. Just don't forget to come back to me." I nodded. My heart felt tight. My eyes burned. The next morning, it drizzled. I rolled my tiny suitcase out of the Carter house. The taxi was waiting outside the gate. As I stepped into the car, I turned around and felt my heart seize up. There he was, Ethan Carter, standing beneath the porch awning, wearing his school uniform, backpack slung over one shoulder, hand gripped tightly around his bag strap, just watching. His eyes followed me, silent and suffocating. No words, no hug, just one tightly clenched hand, holding something. I broke free from my mom and ran toward him. Standing right in front of him, I shouted, "Ethan, that! Give it to me!" He froze for a second, then stiffly shoved a small yellow envelope into my hand. No explanation, no goodbye. He simply turned around and walked back into the house, disappearing into the blur of rain. I sat silently in the back of the taxi, clutching the envelope the entire ride, too afraid to open it. It wasn't until that night, curled up in our tiny new apartment, that I dared take it out. Inside was a single small sheet of paper. On it, he had written, in slightly crooked handwriting, Wait for me. Don't like anyone else. Just one sentence. But my heart shattered into pieces. I hugged the note to my chest and whispered, "Yes, I'll wait. Just for you." 4 years passed. The clingy 5th-grade girl who used to chase after Ethan Kaka had grown into a 15-year-old teenager. My hair was longer, my frame taller, but my heart, still exactly the same as the day we said goodbye. In my suitcase, brought back to this old city, I still kept that yellow envelope. That note, "Don't like anyone else," had faded, worn thin from being read 100 times. On my first morning attending the prestigious new high school, it was pouring rain. I walked through it, backpack straps gripped tightly, heart racing with nerves and anticipation. They said Ethan went here too. Same school, different grade. I had just stepped through the front gate when, bam! I slammed right into someone. The impact nearly knocked me down, but a firm hand caught me just in time. I looked up and froze. A tall boy in a crisp white dress shirt, loosely tied school tie, rain-soaked hair swept back, face sharp and cold enough to make everyone around us pause. But his eyes, those deep, dark eyes, looked exactly the same as they did 4 years ago. Ethan. I hadn't even managed to speak when he reached out, grabbed my backpack strap, and pulled me straight into him. Our noses nearly touched. His breath was warm against my rain-chilled cheek. His voice was low, steady, and close enough to make my whole body go still. "Violet Tran, you finally came back." I stood there stunned, my heart pounding so loud I could barely think. It felt like someone had pushed me into a lake, then yanked me back up with a live wire. He wasn't the skinny, cold-faced little boy anymore. He had become a young man, tall, confident, and overwhelmingly intense. I stammered, You go to school here too?" He didn't answer. Instead, he casually reached up and removed the soaked cap from my head, carefully, like it was something fragile and precious. Everyone in the hallway had gone silent. Dozens of eyes stared at us, wide-eyed, as if they were witnessing a dramatic scene straight out of a romance movie. But Ethan didn't care. Without hesitation, he took my hand and said, "Let's go. I'm walking you to class." And just like that, I found myself being led through the hallway, hand in hand, like a kindergartner, but with a heart that felt way too full for just 15 years old. Before I could even get used to that feeling, I heard his voice, low and close against my ear. "Wait for me after class. Don't wander off." Then, Ethan disappeared behind the staircase, and only then did I remember to breathe. My whole body felt like jelly, like I'd just been struck by lightning. My classmates instantly swarmed me with questions. "Wait, was that your boyfriend? Are you two, like, childhood sweethearts? Oh my God, this stuff only happens in romance novels." I laughed awkwardly and shook my head, denying it. But inside, I felt that old yellow envelope from years ago stir back to life. "Wait for me. Don't like anyone else." I had waited, and now he really had come back. That night, I couldn't sleep. Even after showering, reviewing homework, and lying still in bed, my hands still remembered the way he grabbed mine in the rain. Not everyone is special enough to soften someone like Ethan Carter. But in that moment, I knew. His eyes still saw only me. Since my return, Ethan never said much. He didn't declare anything aloud, didn't define what we were. But everyone around us knew. I had already been claimed. At school, he waited for me at the front gate. During break, he stood in front of my classroom door. After school, he waited under the old honey locust tree. It was like a personalized schedule, just for me, but written by him. I once teased him, "What are you, my bodyguard?" Or, "Stepdad, maybe?" He looked straight at me and answered deadpan, "Future husband. Bodyguard is just my side hustle." I blushed so hard, I felt like I might combust. Ethan wasn't the same boy who used to shove strawberry candy into my hands and walk off. Now he stood nearly 6 feet tall, with broad shoulders, strong arms, deep-set eyes, and a face still cold as ever. But every time I so much as frowned from exhaustion, a cold bottle of orange juice would appear in my hand. And taped to the lid would be a tiny note. "Drink this. Rest well. Don't forget your jacket." The wild part? He tasted it first. I yelled at him, "Why would you do that? Testing for poison? You think someone's trying to kill me?" He shrugged. "Can't be too sure." I had no comeback. His logic was ridiculous and sweet as lemon honey. One time, the school hosted a sports day. I signed up for the girls' relay race. The moment I walked out in my fitted athletic uniform, some boys in the stands started shouting, "Damn, Violet's got that runner's figure. After the race, we're lining up for autographs." I didn't even get a chance to respond. Next thing I knew, a familiar shadow loomed. Ethan walked over, slipped off his uniform jacket, and draped it over my shoulders. Hood and all. "Put it on. It's cold." "It's 95 degrees out," I muttered. He looked straight at me, cold under other people's stares. I was speechless. Then he crouched down and tied my shoelaces. His fingers brushed my ankle, light but steady. I wanted to melt into the ground. Meanwhile, my friends around us were losing their minds. "Oh my God, is this real?" "Did you see what Ethan just did?" I blushed furiously and smacked his arm. "What are you doing? That was so embarrassing." He looked up, eyes dark and intense, like they could drown you. "I'm here to watch my wife race." I stood frozen in place. At that moment, I didn't remember how many meters the race was. All I remembered was that he was up there, on the bleachers, watching my every move. I ran like the wind, not because I wanted to win, but because I wanted him to see me. When I finally crossed the finish line, I was panting like a fish out of water. Before I could even look for a drink, Ethan was already there, pressing a cold bottle of water against my cheek. I yelped, "Ah, that's freezing!" He frowned. "Good. Cools your fever." I giggled. "You spoil me." He replied flatly, "If I don't spoil you, who else should?" That night, I hugged my pillow and rolled around in bed, grinning like an idiot. There was this feeling inside me, familiar yet new. The way he cared for me. It wasn't how a friend would. It was how a man treats the girl he wants to marry. And I realized, maybe it was time I started liking him, not just a little, but a lot. After that sports day, I found myself noticing him more. Every frown, every glance, every time he opened my orange juice to test it first. It all made my heart skip. I wasn't the little girl who used to call him Kaka anymore. I was 16 now, a girl with a heart that could fall in love. And still, the only person in that heart was him. One afternoon, during break, I overheard some girls chatting. "Hey, the school festival's coming up." "Yeah, I heard it's the best time to confess. They say if your confession works out during the festival, you'll be lucky all year." I sat there quietly, face red as a tomato. That night, I rolled around in bed again, clutching my pillow and whispering, maybe I should try confessing too. I knew it sounded crazy. Ethan was always the one who took the lead in everything. Candy, chairs, juice, even my emotions. He treated all of it like it belonged to him. But there was a small part of me that wanted to do something for myself. For once, I didn't want to wait for him to say it. I wanted to say it first. "Ethan, I like you." The plan sounded simple. Bake heart-shaped cookies, tie them with a red ribbon, ask him to meet me behind the school after class, hand him the box, say 3 words. Easy, right? Easy. Until I stood under the old honey locust tree and waited. 5 minutes, then 10, then 15, still no sign of him. I called, no answer, texted, no reply. Nearly 30 minutes later, a classmate came running, out of breath. "Violet! Ethan's stuck in the auditorium. The principal called him up last minute for the honor roll ceremony." I stood there, holding the cookie box. My hands were sweaty, the ribbon was wilted, and my heart felt empty. That night, I didn't text him, didn't wait for his message like I usually did. I just lay in bed, eating those heart-shaped cookies one by one. each bite sweet, but bitter on my tongue. The next day, he came to find me. In his hand was a small, perfect box of pastel macarons. "About yesterday," he said quietly. "I'm sorry, the teacher called me up out of nowhere." I quickly shook my head. "No, it's fine. I just wanted to show you the cookies I made." Ethan looked at me for a long time. Those deep eyes, so full of unspoken things. But in the end, he just gently patted my head. "Everything you make is beautiful." And just like that, my confession failed. Or so I thought. But no, Ethan Carter wasn't the kind of guy who said things easily. He did things, big things, clear things, things that left no room for misunderstanding. The very next day, the school's announcement board, usually used for test schedules and event flyers, had a new addition, a single white sheet taped right in the center. Handwritten, neat and bold. "The person I like is Violet Tran. Ethan Carter." I froze. The whole class went into chaos. "Oh, my God! He did not just do that. Dang! Ethan really went full power, huh? Violet, say something! You're famous now!" Before I could react, a hand grabbed mine and pulled me aside. Ethan leaned down, whispering near my ear, "Doesn't matter where you run, I'll still find you." I was speechless. My face burned like it was on fire. But inside, I was melting like cotton candy. Turns out, some love confessions don't need fancy words. Sometimes, it's enough just to show the whole world, she's mine. After that board went up, my life officially switched into ultra pink mode. The kind where just opening the classroom door made everyone shout, "Hey, hey, hey! The queen is here! Violet, when's the wedding? I want candy! Did y'all book the venue yet?" I'd blush and fake scold them, but secretly, I wanted to hug my chest and skip down the hall like a lovesick fool. And Ethan? Still cold-faced, still in that crisp white shirt. But his eyes, whenever they landed on me, weren't cold anymore. Every morning, he still waited at the gate. Every lunch, he sent me a lunchbox with a note. "Finish it all." And every night, he messaged me like a doting husband in training. "Did you get home? Shower yet? Don't stay up too late reviewing." One day, he asked me to meet him, not at the mall, not at some fancy cafe, but at the small, quiet street lined with bougainvillea blossoms. The place where we used to ride bikes, run in the rain, and sneak each other candy. I wore a simple white dress and flat shoes. Nothing special. But the moment I saw him standing under the falling petals, my heart trembled. Ethan walked a few steps forward, then turned and held out his hand. I placed mine in his. He held it tight. His deep black eyes softened, like rain just stopped over a lake. "Violet," he said. Just Violet, no last name, no formalities. For the first time. I looked up. "Yeah?" He took a deep breath, and then reached into his jacket pocket. A small navy velvet box appeared in his hand. On top of it was a delicate silver thread bougainvillea flower. I held my breath. For a split second, everything around me slowed. Ethan opened the box. Inside was a slender silver ring with a tiny clear stone in the center. Not big, not flashy, but breathtaking in its quiet beauty. He took my left hand, eyes never leaving mine. And then he said, "I want to spend the rest of my life with you, to be the one who loves you, marries you, and holds your hand through everything that's still to come." I burst into tears, not out of shock, but because my heart felt so full, it was almost hard to breathe. I couldn't say a word. I just threw my arms around his neck and nodded over and over. "I love it. I love it so much." He paused for a second, then smiled. That rare, gentle smile that felt like the first breeze of spring. He slipped the ring onto my finger. His hands trembled slightly, but the ring fit perfectly, like it was made for me. Then he leaned close and whispered, "Truth is, you've been my future wife for a long time now." I blinked. "Since when?" He chuckled and patted my head. Do you remember? When we were 5, my grandma joked that we'd get married someday? I nodded vaguely. I never took it as a joke, he said softly. I took it as a promise. There I stood, surrounded by falling bougainvillea petals, overwhelmed with this strange, beautiful emotion. Part awe, part gratitude. Turns out, even before I knew what love meant, he had already chosen me. And now, he was simply moving me from the palm of his hand, straight into his heart. That spring, the sun was warm, flowers bloomed along both sides of the street, and the air smelled faintly sweet, just like the emotions in my chest. I wore a pure white wedding dress, holding a small bouquet of baby's breath, standing in front of the mirror in quiet disbelief. Today, I was truly becoming his wife, the boy who had held my hand since I was 5, who had walked me through every season of blooming flowers, every tear, every chapter of growing up. Outside the door, my friends giggled and called out, "Violet, are you ready yet? Your groom's about to lose his mind out here." I laughed, took a deep breath, gently lifted my dress, and stepped outside. The doors opened, and there he was, Ethan Carter, dressed in a sleek black suit, silver gray tie, hair neatly styled, eyes dark and deep as the ocean. But when he saw me, all the coldness disappeared. In that moment, in his eyes, there was only me. I walked slowly down the white aisle, between rows of family and friends. Soft music played. No one spoke. No one moved. It was as if the entire world had stepped aside, to let this moment belong only to us. When I reached him, he extended his hand. I placed mine into his, the same hand that once held mine in the rain, pulled me out of crowds, tied my shoelaces with such care. Now, that hand held mine like a vow. The pastor asked, "Do you, Ethan, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife? To love her, in sunshine or rain, in joy or hardship, for the rest of your life?" Ethan looked up, his voice steady, low, and without a second of hesitation. "I do. I do." That single sentence, the one he had waited his whole life to hear. Then it was my turn. I looked into his eyes, the same eyes that had made me pause at 5 years old, blush at 16, and now made me believe that as long as he was by my side, I'd never be afraid of anything again. I smiled, tears shimmering in my eyes. "I do." Applause erupted like fireworks. Friends cheered. Bougainvillea petals rained down like blessings from the sky. Ethan leaned in and kissed my forehead. Not rushed, not flashy, just soft and deep. The kind of kiss that holds the weight of a love nurtured over a lifetime. That evening, our wedding reception was filled with laughter and joy. But even in the crowd, even among the dozens of congratulations, Ethan's eyes never strayed from mine. His left hand held mine firmly. His right hand only lifted a glass when necessary. Friends teased, "Dude, you're gonna hold her hand the entire party?" Ethan answered coolly, "I could hold it for the rest of my life." Later, after most of the guests had gone, he leaned in close and whispered into my ear, "Remember the first time you called me Triple E? E for Ethan, 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 a silly nickname from when we were 5. I told you then, you'd never escape me after that." I laughed, tears falling again, but this time they were warm. I squeezed his hand and whispered back, "I never wanted to run. I only ever wanted to stay, right here, with you, forever." That night, in our honeymoon suite covered in white flowers, I lay in his arms. That same hand still held mine, just like it did the first time. No fancy vows, no dramatic promises, just the quiet truth that every morning I wake up, he's the first face I see. Every night before I sleep, he's the last hand I touch. Someone once asked me, "Isn't it boring to love someone since you were a kid?" I just smiled. Not only is it not boring, I love him more every single day. Because in a vast world full of fleeting connections, To find someone who grows up with you, who walks through every storm with you, and stands across from you at the altar. That's rare, and I am lucky. So lucky that, at 5 years old, I had already found him.